Hello and welcome to Friday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, where today we're going to be looking at a puzzle by the brilliant Mr. Menace, one of my favourite constructors, with a puzzle called Killin It. And this is a 159 Sudoku. Now this rule set, which I know many of you will have seen before if you've been watching the channel for a while, but it seems to be particularly popular with people who program computers, because these red stripes in the grid, they index to other parts of the grid, and that seems to really appeal to people who do programming. Anyway, it also appeals to me, although I'm not very good at programming. I do love a 159 Sudoku every now and again, and this one is meant to be brilliant. So I'll read the rules in just a second. I've got a few things to mention first. Thank you so much if you joined me last night on my quest to complete the Music Box Challenge, which is a part of the Witness computer game that I've been trying occasionally, live streaming. If you want to know how I got on, the video is now on the channel. I'll try and remember to put a link to it there. It was certainly a fairly exhilarating journey. Now, what else do I need to mention? Oh yeah, the next thing we might stream actually is it called The Return of the Obra Dinn? So don't worry, we're not giving up on Bubba Is You. We just want to mix it up a bit. So we're gonna oscillate between Bubba Is You and other things to see if we can find some other content that people enjoy. And Obra Dinn certainly seemed to be getting some good write-ups in the chat last night. So I think that's what we might have a look at next. Now I need to say very well done to Philip Wynn, because coincidentally, with the name Win, you have won. You have won the Bubba Is You key, which we awarded for one of the correct entries to our October monthly reward, which was a pretty difficult lockout line Sudoku hunt. So Philip, well done. We'll be in touch to give you your key. And well done actually to all of you who managed to complete that set of puzzles. It was not easy, and there is a whole suite. There's something like 5 hours of bonus content at the moment over on Patreon of solution videos, many of which have been created by the constructors of the puzzles themselves. So that is a real treat. It really is. So do have a look at those when you have a moment or two. Now, what else? Oh, in fact, look at yesterday's Sudoku on the channel as well. This empty grid Sudoku. That has been getting a lot of love. It's a fairly extraordinary puzzle, because when I opened the puzzle, there was literally nothing in it. It was a blank Sudoku grid. And yes, it did have some rules. You might expect that. But it's a puzzle by Jadawo. And they came up with something that was actually very interesting. A little bit of maths in there as well, and you could in the end solve it. It took me a little while, and I've been very impressed actually with some of the comments. Some people have been managing to get through that puzzle in about half an hour, which is excellent in my opinion. But I think many of you will enjoy it. I'll try and remember to put a link to that on the screen as well. And the final thing I want to mention, well, I want to say a big thank you as well, is to Panthera and The Asylum, who are going to be appearing in our monthly reward for patrons in November. They have created something quite extraordinary. In fact, what can I show you? I can show you, they released some bonus puzzles as well, which I'm going to release free on Patreon, probably today if I remember to do it. But basically, they call themselves the Paint by Numbers Institute, and they have created a pack of 45 Japanese sum Sudoku puzzles, these are beautiful puzzles. I love these because you always get a picture at the end of them. And yeah, there are 45 of these. About half of them are gas puzzles. In other words, they're generally approachable Sudokus, so not too difficult. And the other half are more tricky. So there's an absolutely brilliant mixture. And the way they've done this, which I really love, is it's like going to school. So you start off in sort of an early year, and the puzzles are all quite easy. And if you manage to complete them, you can get a password which takes you to the second year of puzzles, and you have to work your way up to the degree level. You've got to get your degree in Japanese sums paint by number puzzles. So this is absolutely brilliant. We're going to release it obviously on the 1st of November, which is not long away. But we will release this bonus edition to tempt some of you and to give you a bit of a treat. That'll be free on Patreon very soon. So do check that out. And a big thanks again to Panthera and The Asylum for creating those puzzles for us. Now, all that said and done, I'm going to read you the rules of Killin It by Mr. Menace. So we've got normal Sudoku rules apply. in cages, digits must sum to the small clue in the top left corner of the cage, and digits cannot repeat within a cage. So this is normal killer Sudoku rules. So those 3 cells have to sum to 17, and what we can't do in doing that is do that. Because although these digits do add to 17 and they don't appear to break the rules of Sudoku, they break the rule of the cage because they have a double 5 in a cage, and you mustn't do that. That's very naughty. It's just like putting a robin redbreast in a cage. It sets all heaven in a rage. Now, other than that, now we've got the 159 rules, which are digits in column 1 indicate the column in which the digit 1 appears in that row. E.g., if row 4 column 1 is a 6, then row 4 column 6 is a 1. So this is sort of providing the index for the column in which the 1 appears in row 4. So when we get a 6 here, we can go along to the 6th column and we know that cell there has to be a 1. Now the same thing is true for for column 5 as regards 5s in this column. So if this square was a 8, we would have to go to the 8th column, and that's where the 5 would be in this row. And then similarly for 9s in column 9, if this square was a 2, then the 9 would have to go in the 2nd column over there. So there's this sort of indexing effect between this one, this one, this one. My voice still isn't quite right after my cough illness, but hopefully I am on the mend. Do have a go. The way to play is to click the link under the video as usual. Now I get to play. Let's get cracking. And this is immediately unusual, isn't it? Because most 159 Sudokus have given digits, so all we've got today is cages. And none of these cages actually, well, I know an 8 cage has got to have a 1 in it in 3 cells. Oh dear, I don't want to have to pause the video because I'm going to have a coughing fit, but hopefully I'll be okay. I'll just speak more calmly, Simon. 22 cage has got to have a 9 in it. Oh, okay. Right, sorry, I've just realised that the 1s and the 9s are the index digits as well, aren't they? So that might be interesting. None of the other cages, I'm probably maligning them unfairly, but I do not think I know anything interesting about any of them. I mean, I know very simple things, like a 12 cage in 2 cells has only got 3 ways of being made. Same thing is true of the 8 cage, actually. In fact, that's lovely, isn't it? I've just noticed, and I should have noticed this immediately, that all the cages are in fact symmetrically disposed, by which I mean if we rotated the grid around 180 degrees, they would map onto each other. Right, let me just think about this 8 cage then. If there has to be a 1 in one of those 3 cells, then if that 1 was in row 4, you would have a 2 or a 3 in this position, indexing the column in which the 1 appeared. But this is going to be an absolute nightmare to pencil mark, because if the 1 was here, then you would have a 2 in this position. So I don't really know how to do that. You've either got a 2 or a 3 here, or a 2 here. Which is, although, just thinking through that a bit more, wherever the 1 goes, it's actually going to fix the nature of the 8 cage, because an 8 cage can only be made in two ways. It's either 1, 2, 5 or 1, 3, 4. So if, for example, this was the 1, now, because you get a 3 here to index the 1, this 8 cage can't be 1, 3, 4, so it would be 1, 2, 5. But, of course, that doesn't mean we know if this was 1, you get a 2 here, and then you get a 1, 3, 4 cage, because it couldn't be 1, 2, 5. So there's something going on there, isn't there? But can't quite see what that means, to be honest. The 9s, I think the logic with the 9s, well, I immediately think it's symmetrical, isn't it? Because if the 9 is here, I have to put an 8 there. If the 9's there, I have to put an 8 there. And if the 9 is here, I have to put a 7 here. So again, it's very difficult to pencil mark this in this puzzle, but there is either an 8 here or a 7 or an 8 there. One of those things is true, but not both. Actually, not both. You can't have a 7 there. Sorry, you can't have an 8 there and a 7 there, because that would imply you'd have to put double 9 in box 6. And we definitely can't do that. So I'm just wondering if there's some interplay between these boxes. And I feel like there must be, because I don't think, unless I'm missing something, that there is anything else we could do in the puzzle. I certainly can't see a way that these cages interact with their cages in their columns. I mean, even if I could just say this was a 9 for the sake of argument and then go down some bifurcation, all I'd learn about the 11 cage is that it's not 2, 9. All I'd learn about the 17 cage is it didn't have a 9 in 2 of its positions. That does not seem very helpful. I almost wonder whether I've got to explore. I don't like doing this, but I've got to explore, this. What happens if this is a 1? Can I just look at that for a moment? I just want to have a think about it. So if this is a 1, that's a 3. This becomes a 2, 5 cage. Well, that becomes a 2, 5 domino. 3 and 1 then are restricted. Ooh. Yeah, 3 and 1 would be very restricted in box 6, because you can't put a 3 or a 1 in a 22 cage. 22 cage is either 5, 8, 9 or 6, 7, 9. And you can't put 1 and 3 in this domino, because if you do that, you're implying the 9 in box 6 is definitely either in column 1 or column 3. One of those things could be true, but 2 of them cannot be true, because we know that one of these red cells must index the 9 that's in box 6. So one of these is definitely a 7 or an 8. So they are not a 1-3 pair. So that if this was true, you'd have to have a 1 or a 3 here. 2, 5. Okay, so if this was a 1, you can't do 3, 2, 1 here, because then those 3 squares would have to be 1, 2, 3, and we've just said that's not possible, because one of these is a 7 or an 8. So you'd have to put the 5 at the top and the 2 there. Oh, that's right. Well, that's quite beautiful, actually. That really is quite beautiful, because that doesn't work either. And I know I'm on a bit of a chain here, but I am discovering things about the puzzle, because if this is a 2, 5 pair, we've said this can't be a 2, and that's true, because 3, 2, 1 can't go into those 3 squares. But if this is a 5, we get the same problem, because now this square has to index the 5 in this row, so it's a 2, and I've still got a 1, 2, 3 triple, and I've still got to put 1, 2, and 3 in those squares where they can't go. So this breaks. That is very interesting. Okay, so we have learnt some things about this puzzle. Well, we've learnt this is not a 1. So there's definitely a 2 in one of those. But I think we're also learning we've got to be quite careful with these 3 digits. I mean, if this was 1, 3, 4... I'm tempted to say you can never put the 1... No, you can't. That's the key. That's the key. You can never have the 1 in row 4. This is actually very, very beautiful. This is a beautiful idea. If you put the 1 in row 4, the problem is that now you get a low digit here. And axiomatically, there is always a low digit in an 8 cage. Now, the beautiful thing about an 8 cage is that the low digits in this domino are definitely selected from these 5 digits. Now the 5 you might think gives us a way out. If it's a 5 in here, we've got a way out because we could put a 5 in the 22, but you can't, because a 5 in here puts another low digit in here, and then I've definitely got 3 low digits, i.e. 3 digits under 5 in these 4 squares. And you can't do it because you just cannot put 3 low digits under 5 in those 3 squares. It's impossible because one of these is a 7 or an 8 to index the 9. So this is just, this proves. So, well, what does it prove? You can't have a 1 in either of those squares. You just can't for that reason. So this is a 1. That means that's a 2. That means this is a 3-4 pair. And, well, that means that I still can't put 3 and 4 in here. I can't put 3 and 4 here. I can't put 3 or 4 here. So this square is now a 3 or a 4. Right, now I'm just going to take a pause for a moment, because I've learnt from bitter experience that 159 puzzles, they almost always have more logic in them than you think they do. Oh. Right. Right, no. Okay. Right, this is just brilliant. This is really, I love things like this, Mr. Menace. You are take a bow already, because you have, it's so impressive. I could have started here and asked all of these questions about box 4 instead. Because of course these are still, what I could have asked these questions about these 3 cells and where these 3 cells go in this box. Because again, we've got the same problem. If these are 3 high digits, if these are 3 digits that are 5 or higher, we've broken the puzzle because there are only 2 available squares. And that was always the case, that there were only 2 available squares, because we know that wherever the 1 was in the 8 cage, it was either giving rise to a 2 or a 3 in this domino. So again, surely I can ask the same questions now, in the sense that, yeah, I mean, what would happen if this was a high digit? Then we know that all 3 of these digits are high, and we can't place them in here, because this is indexing into a 7 or an 8. So this would be a 7 or an 8, and that's too many high digits. So we know that the 9 must be here. We know that must therefore be an 8. Now this being an 8 tells us the composition of the 22 gauge, which is now not 5, 8, 9. It's 6, 7, 9. Which means those 2 squares are a 6 and a 7. And I see now there's a 3 or a 4 here. These squares are 5, 8, and 9 to complete box 4. Right, and this is gorgeous, because this square needs to index to a 9 in the row. And the 9 is definitely in the first 3 cells, so that can't be a 4. That's got to be the 3, which places the 9. Ugh. I've not done anything yet in any of these cells. I've literally done nothing. This is like a self-contained, this is like a Sudoku with only 3 rows in it. And yet it's still absolutely gorgeous. That's a 4, obviously. These squares are 1, 2, and 5, and don't tell me that square. Yes, this has got to index the 1, which is definitely in either column 7, 8, or 9. So that's got to be 7, which means that's got to be 6. That places the 1, because it's got to be in column 7. Now we've got a 2 or a 5 here. Well, this is beautiful as well, because that can't be a 2, because that would imply that square was a 9. So this is a 5, this is a 2. We've got to place the 9 in the 5th column, and these are sort of mutually self-referent, or they reference to each other. So the 9 is saying that put the 5 in column 9, which we do, and that simultaneously says put the 5 in column, put the 9 in column 5, which we then do, and they index to each other in a never-ending loop of madness. Now those squares there are 1s, 2s, and 4s. We can see the 5 is in one of those 2 positions, so that's got to be linking to column 1 or column 2. In fact, when I'm just thinking about this now, yeah, we should be able to do this as well, looking at it the other way round, which is it possible for the 1 to be in column 8? No. So the logic's the same. Here we're going to get self-referencing 1s and 5s. So there is a lot of symmetry going on in these rows of the grid. Now, what are those squares going to be? They are from 3, 5 and 7. I need to highlight that one as well. 3, 5 and 7. So you can't put the 5 in either of those squares. So the 5 goes in the 5 goes in the middle and references itself. Those two squares become those. These two squares become 6 and 8. And it looks like we've run out of gas with that. The 8 cage, that square can't be a 1 or a 5. Yeah, and there's some similar logic here with the 12 cage. You sort of eliminate, each of these cages has 3 options, and you're eliminating 2 digits from those cells. I think you've still got 4 more digits to choose from, though, so I'm a bit reluctant to pencil mark that. Okay. Where do we look now? 21 cage must have a 6 or a 9 in it, because if it doesn't, it's only adding up to 7, 8 and 5, which is 20. So this square and this square, well, this square here must be a 6 or a 9. If it's a 9, that square's a 4. That might be possible. Okay, where do we look now? 9 and 6 can't go in the 11 cage. I don't think that's that useful, is it? So it's either 3, 8 or 4, 7. So there is a virtual 3, 4 pair in this column, because there must be a 3 or a 4 in that domino, because it's either 3, 8 or 4, 7. And there's definitely a 3, 4 there. So you can't put 3, well, you could never put 3 in the 21 cage. You can't put 4 in it now. Oh, no, better question than that. You can't, where do 1 and 2 go in this column? The answer is not in the 21 cage, so that's sort of a hidden 1, 2 pair. Now there must be a 5 in the 21 cage. Right, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Once you've locked a 5 into the 21 cage, it must be 5, 7, 9, because the other 2 digits have to add to 16 and not repeat. That gives us this digit, because it can't be a 6 now. So that is a 9. That index is a 4 here. Plonk a 4 up there by Sudoku. This becomes a 5, 7 pair, so that fixes the nature of our 11 cage. This is a 3, 8 cage now, which means, yes, that can't be a 1, because if that's a 1, that's got to be a 3 to index into that position, and it can't be a 3 anymore. So that must be 2, that must be 1, that must be 3. It's eliminating the same option from the 12 cage. Look, so the 12 cage now is either 4, 4, 8 or 5, 7. If it's 5, 7, it would have to... That's beautiful. Right. This, actually, using the killer cages, it introduces logic I've not seen into these puzzles, because that can't be a 5, 7. Because, of course, this being the 5 tells us that now we need to put a 4 in this column in order to index to that 5. But we have to put a 7 to make the 12 cage work, so it actually just breaks. So that's got to be 4, 8, I think. But 4 and 8, oh, I see. Yeah. Well, now that position is definitely not a 5, so you can't put the 4 there, so that's got to be 8. That's got to be 4. Yeah, and this is telling us that we have to be careful here, because there are so many opportunities to mess it up by not using logic that actually exists in the puzzle. 8. 8's in one of 2 places in box 7. So that's telling us the 1 is in one of those two places in box 9. Now that 1 is saying that 1 is in one of those 3 places in box 3, which is indexing the 9 over here. Oh, I see, so the 9s and the 1s are sort of, they're making a pair of referencing digits, aren't they? Okay, so where do we look now? The 8 cage can't be 2, 6 anymore. Now 3, 5 involves the 5, so that, oh, that's annoying. Oh no, I was about to say it's annoying because the 5 could go there and reference itself, but it can't because we've already done the self-referencing 5. So if that's a 3 and that's a 5, you've broken it because this 3 is not referencing column 6. So that's a 1, 7 pair actually. Oh, which we can do. Oh, and that's gorgeous because that's going to tell me now the 1 is in column 6, so that becomes a 6. The 7 is telling us where the 5 goes, which has got to be there now. 5, 5, okay. That's almost nice, isn't it? But not quite. What? Oh, 1 in box thingy thing has to be in... Ah, I've got a 1, 9 pair in box 1 now. And that... Oh, the 1 is referencing itself again. Oh dear. These 3 squares are 4, 5 and 7. So by Sudoku that's a 4. And one of these is a 5, which means I have to put a 2 in one of these squares. And does that matter? The answer is I don't think so. Okay, so what do we do now? I've got a 5 here I've not referenced. So that's saying one of those 2 squares has to be a 3. But we don't know where the 3 is in box 5, so that's not quite helpful, is it? Now, if that's a 1, 9 pair, that's a 4, 8 pair. So that's telling, that's beautiful, right. So where does the 1 go in this column? Well, it can't go here because I've already got a 9 in this cell. So it must go there, which means that's indexing to it. That's indexing 8, which gives us the 1 over there. 8 is now in a domino in box 9. Those 3 squares are 2, 6, and our friendly neighbourhood 9, which needs to be referenced. So there must be a 2 in this domino. Oh, no, I haven't broken the puzzle. Now there must be a 2 in the 17 cage, which means the other 2 digits add up to 15. So they're either 6, 9 or they're 7, 8. So can we work out which of those is likely to be true? If the 9 was in there, this would have to be a 6. But 6 isn't a very helpful digit, really, is it? It's not an index. You know, it's not a 1, 5 or a 9. 2, 3, 4, 6 down this column. Okay, now we're getting to the point where we might be stuck. The 11 cage I've not looked at. I can see it's not 5, 6 or 4, 7. So this is either an 8 here and a 3 below it, or it's 2, 9, and that would have to be a very specific way round as well. And if this was 2, 9, if this was 9, this would have to be 7, which unfortunately also looks possible. Bobbins. 3 is very nearly restricted in box 9. It's one of 2 places. This row maybe? We've done a lot in that row. We need 3. Oh, yeah, that's good. That square's a naked single. That's got to be 9. Oh, but that references to itself, which is annoying. So 9 is in that domino in box 9, and those squares are a 3, 8 pair. And that's not resolved, and it's not indexing to anything, so we can't do that. Can I get rid of a 9 from this square? If I could do that, I would know the nature of the 17 cage. 9. Oh, no, it actually looks... excuse me. It looks very possible that the 9 is in that cell. Okay. So we've got to find some other way of making progress here. What is that way? The 5 in this box has to be in column 6. So that means... Ah! Is that true? Yes, it is true. So that means one of those two squares must index that. Which means I've got a 3-6 pair down here now, which I definitely didn't have before. There's a 2-3-6 pair, or 2-3-6 triple now, in row 9, which means this square is a 5 or a 7. I have a horrible feeling we can do something with that, but I don't know what it is. But what we do know is that these two squares at the top now are a 2-4 pair. And they are indexing 5, so that means 5 must be in one of those two cells, which, whilst being true, doesn't look like it's especially useful. Bother. So we know what these squares are as well, don't we? These are 2, 5 and 7. So this is a 2 or a 7, and this is a 2, 5 or a 7. No, I think it's still being recalcitrant, so we're going to have to think again. The only cage I've not really explored now is still this 17 cage. Or maybe what I've got to do, in fact this probably is sensible, I should have done this before, is to think about this column. Because these are referencing the 9s, and I've not thought yet about the 6s and the 7s. Yeah, hang on. Hang on, those cannot be 6s. Because you can't put a 9 in those cells. So that means the 6 must be up there. Yes, which we knew, I suppose. Once I got the 9 in those cells, I could have indexed it here. So this is a 1-6 pair. Whoops. This is a 2-7 pair. Oh yeah, which we also knew, I just didn't index it, bobbins. And oh right, and now this is why this 17 cage is resolved, because now I've got a 6 and a 9 in box 3, so you can't put 6 or 9 in this domino, so it cannot be a 2, 6, 9, 17 cage. So this must be 2, 7, 8, which means that square's not 9. Oh, this is going to crack it, I think. 9 goes here, which forces the resolution of the 6 and the 1, which forces the resolution of the 1 and the 9. We know that this square has to be a 7 or an 8, and it's not a 7, so that's an 8. This is a 2-7 pair. That fixes, look, oh goodness, and I thought I had a 2 up there, so I could have resolved this square earlier as well. So this has been a very inefficient solve, I should say, but never mind. It's been a very enjoyable one for me. That's got to be a 2. These aren't indexed, are they? Okay, this 2-7 resolves the 6 here and the 7 here, and now in this column, look, we still need to put our old friendly neighbourhood 9, which resolves the 7 and the 2. This 9 resolves the 9 and the 6, but that 2 did as well in a way. This square's a 2. 5-7 pair here means this square's got to be a 6. And we can tidy up some pencil marks, I think, at the top of the grid, where we need 3, 4 and 8. 3, 4 and 8 before my voice gives out. Okay, 3, 8 here is resolving things as well, isn't it? That's got to be 3, that's got to be 4. This 4 is resolving the 4 and the 2. 7 is resolving the 7 and the 3. And can we keep this going? This must be resolved. Yeah, the 8's resolving the 8 and the 6. That's got to be a 3. That's got to be an 8 now. Okay. So how does this stuff get resolved at the bottom? Oh, it's going to be the 5, isn't it? So this is indexing the 5. It's so easy, at least for me, to forget about the indexing. And the moment you forget about it, it sort of comes up and bites you in the butt. Now, what are these squares? These are 5 and 6 with the 6 here. So that's a 6, that's a 5. We've got to index the 5 with the 4. That's the 2 then. 2, 7, 7, 5. 8 here, skipping 8, 3, 3, 4, tick, yay. What a brilliant puzzle. I loved the logic at the start of that especially. The fact that you can do the central 3 rows of this grid without reference to anything else, but crucially the logic is still beautiful, is just gorgeous. It really is. That you can come up with something so pleasing without using, 6 rows is amazing to me. Mr. Menace, brilliant, brilliant puzzle. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments, and we'll be back later with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.